and belonging, where we talk about everything DEI under the sun. I'm super excited this week to be joined by Rubina Spangler. You all know I never do justice to people's introductions. So Rubina, please introduce yourself and the amazing work that you've really spent your career doing around DEI.
All right. Thanks so much, Mo. First, I want to thank you for the invitation to join Everyday Inclusion. I looked at some of the past videos and I'm really, truly honored and privileged to be here, included in that lineup of folks that you have. So my name is Rubina Spangler. I am the Senior Director of DEI at APIS Services, and I've been at this post since June. So not only am I bringing a new perspective, but I'm also going to talk about some of the foundational work that we've been doing since my employment.
Well, and I love, you have what I call fresh eyes. So when you come into an organization, I feel like there's this window of about 3 to 6 months where you can see things that people that have been sort of swimming in the fish tank can't see.
Yeah.
So I love that you're coming in both with this deep background and experience, but also with those fresh eyes. I would love for you to tell the story of how your CEO actually recruited you, because I think it speaks to a lot about, y'all are in the midst of, some big moves and commitment around this work. And I think the way he brought you into the organization is a perfect example of that.
No, I love the story. So Ryan Smith, who's the founder and CEO of Imperium, and Jeff Giovino, who is his chief operating officer. So Jeff and I go way back. We worked in the juvenile justice space, and both that's where we cut our teeth. And then, obviously we've moved on to some bigger things, but you always keeping in mind of what that experience has meant to us. So I was asked by Jeff to just do a presentation about DEI, some best practice principles, kind of what would a company the size of Imperium be looking for in a manager, a DEI manager. So I'm describing these characteristics and I'm talking about best practices and the steps to creating a plan. And, Ryan, right in the middle of like slide number 6 says, hang on a second, what are we doing? And Jeff's like, well, what do you mean? This is Rubina. I have her, talking about what we need to do. And he goes, well, here's the deal. Why am I having her tell me what to do when I have, this person who is actually doing the work, capable of doing the work? And so, he says, I'm going to put an offer in your inbox at 7 p.m. tonight. Please consider joining us full time. If you want to be a contractor, that's awesome. But he really has some very forward thinking about what it means to embed DEI, and just didn't believe that could be done on a contractor level, that you just need to have that commitment, a full-time commitment and a full-time person.
Well, and I love that, because that was such an example of, seeing the right thing to do, saying, why are we taking all these other steps when it could just be this, and you're the person, and
yeah,
right, and seeing everything that you could bring to the organization, right, as a Black woman, right? So he right, like he was saying, gosh, unconscious bias be damned, right? I'm sitting with an expert, let's bring her in. So, and I know that he's making some both, he's walking the talk.
Yes.
So tell me about some of the things, and then I want to talk about some of the processes that y'all have adopted, because I love that you're looking at this from a structural standpoint and a systems standpoint, right? And then a culture standpoint. But let's talk about how this is really starting at the top.
Yes. When you talk about an organization where right off the bat, you can tell that the people, the individuals are valued. Like it takes some really good insight around being able to create an environment where not only folks, they don't just feel welcomed, but Ryan and his team, they create literally anywhere from social events to celebrations of birthdays to I've been with the company and I've gone to two, a Phillies game and a Pirates game, which I probably wouldn't have done on my own. But those are those kind of those building blocks that he values. And you can see everybody that's on the team, people I'm getting to know and talk to, right through to the affiliates that we work with. Folks really want to value organizational, the culture, the development, and start having the conversations to put things in place. So that when you gain traction, the people are important. The folks who need to do the work and understand what the work is, I always say that's what it's all about, are the people.
Yeah, right. That those cultures of everyday inclusion, right?
Every
Like,
day.
right. Like we say, it's like, how do you create workplace where every single person can thrive? Because they're the ones doing the work.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Um, so let's talk about your board. Um,
Okay.
the changes that are being made on your board, because I think that, again, that's driven by Ryan and his commitment to this work.
Yes. So part of my sneak up interview, didn't know, was he said something very important and very open about, he's like, I am a white guy. Most of my board are white guys. I really need to, get serious about not only recruitment and retention of board members, but take a look across all backgrounds, business and otherwise, race, gender, sexual orientation, everything that comes up when we think about underrepresented groups of people, and get them on my board. Because we all, along with Ryan, we want to be able to have those diverse voices drive action and drive everything that we're doing. We have a lot of well-intentioned thoughts and feelings and ideas about what DEI is, but the leadership at the very top, when you can see leading by example, people that are being pulled in, how they're introduced into to other board members, how people who are myself have been introduced to the different board members, the new ones, and in the board members who are the existing board members, that commitment is literally felt and seen every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that's, when you're talking about governance and stewardship, and really being able to, that commitment is real.
Mm-hmm.
And that, we know from a board standpoint, it's so often that, it's a referral. Oh, I know this person that is right. And so it's really breaking those systems there as well to say, no, we understand the strategic advantage this gives us. We understand how important it is to have this, because that sends a message, and some of the decision and some of the things, right, in terms of how, you're spending time, what your strategy is, where you're spending dollars, all of that, right? That board governance is so key. So I love that. Like,
Yes.
that is real demonstrative change.
Yes.
Okay, so then let's talk, we talked a little bit about sort of culture, everyday culture, right? And allowing some of the things that are happening there. Let's talk about some of the processes that you've adopted.
Okay. So again, when we start talking about an investment that needs to be made both in human resources and financial, I believe one piece of our process is to identify people and identify tools and all those things that are going to help with engagement. And so a financial investment was made in one of my team members. His name is Alex Pinheiro, and Alex received a certified diversity professional certification. Yay, Alex. It was a lot of work for him, and he's very proud of himself. And then I made the request to be able to get what's called the Intercultural Development Inventory, the IDI. And that tool will help us with both individuals and teams, but do an assessment of where we are as a team, as people, along a continuum of cultural competence.
Mm-hmm.
That, to me, it's not the only piece, but it's a big piece to begin literally getting folks rallied around a commitment to learning more about not only the place that we swim in and live in every day, but more about ourselves, that self-awareness piece. Where are each and every one of us in our ability to not only recognize folks that have differences from us, but how do we recognize that? Where does that work that needs to be done around cultural differences, where does it start? And it always starts with the individual person. One of my favorite things, Mo, to say is DEI literacy is absolutely a personal journey. It happens for people where they are, their communities or families, who they are as people, their lived experiences, their work experience. If you don't start at the individual literacy level, it's very difficult to get buy-in for the long run.
And I love that you're calling that, like, that was a mic drop moment, right? The thing about DI literacy, and it really does, it's every single person, right? It's every single person learning into that. And, I know you've heard me say this, Rubina, right? But curiosity is an inclusion superpower, right?
Yes.
And commitment to one of our core values at Moxie is learning and growth, right? And so always and it's the journey that's never done. But so many folks and organizations don't understand the criticality of that individual person, right?
Yes.
And that it's a bunch of individuals all day long
All day.
creating either othering or inclusion.
Yes.
And so having people lean into that and understand where they are is really critical. And I love something that you said just in terms of there was an investment made, right? There was an investment made in certifications and everything that you have shared so far, Rubina, is really like screams to me that there's real understanding about both the strategic advantage and imperative of this, but also that this isn't just like sort of fluffy stuff, right? Like there are real skills. There are real, because I think sometimes there's this, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, and it's not necessarily popular, starting about a year ago, there were all these diversity committees put together.
Oh yeah.
Right. So all these people that are really excited but they don't have expertise. And so, these diversity committees that are being put together and then they're making strategic decisions about DEI in an organization. Oh my gosh.
Right.
You would not do that with your product or your services or right. So I love that that this is also seen as an area of expertise that needs to be, right, that we're going to invest in and develop and bring in people like you, right, make the investment like, gosh, we actually want her because she's an expert in this, right? And she can help us drive a real strategy. So, all the way down to, okay, let's get these folks ongoing tools that they can bring into the organization.
Right. Right. And that whole, I've been reading a book. It's called Diversity Beyond Lip Service. And because I enjoy, executive coaching, and it really is. It literally is called A Coaching Guide for Challenging Bias. It's by Lawana Harris. And I do a ton of reading. Like I don't know where it came from. I'm a bookworm. I read, and then, I make sure I source and credit everybody that I quote. But one of the things that she says that's very, very, very important is what you and I were talking about, is leaning in to the curious nature of people. Because when you're leaning in, it's sometimes difficult to be judgmental. So if you're curious and you're consistently asking questions and you're seeking to understand, that you're starting to create this judgment-free zone, Another part of inclusion work is just not making the assumption that everybody is where you are, just because you have a baseline understanding. And I'm finding out more and more that, just because I'm Black and just because I'm a woman and just because I do this work doesn't necessarily mean that I'm an expert in all. So I'm continuously learning and questioning myself and engaging with people. That's part of the process we're building here at APIS. And because I'm an athlete, former athlete, I have a tendency to make a lot of sports analogies. So
Okay, so
as
wait.
I love,
What sport?
well, football, basketball, those are the ones that I watch now, but I played every sport. I tell everyone I played every sport. I just never got a chance to try lacrosse.
There you go.
But I tried every sport.
It's never too late. Never too late.
No,
I'm sure there's an adult league.
well, I'm a little bit more mellow now. I'm focusing on my golf game. I'm focusing on the golf game, okay? Because that's something I can definitely do. So as we're creating a process and we're learning to trust that process, that the playbook has to have all the right players in the right seat at the right time. And then if you're finding out that there are some people that are struggling with learning what the playbook is, you give them that that sensitivity and some empathy, and you again leaning in, be willing to ask the important questions. Not everybody, as I talk to folks, not everybody comes at this work with a lot of enthusiasm. There are some folks that are very hesitant.
Yep.
Sometimes it's fear, lack of confidence, worrying about saying the wrong thing. There are folks that kind of get it and want to learn more. And then we just have people who straight up just don't care. There's just a level of apathy that they just don't care.
Using the sports analogy that we said, those folks aren't even in the stadium.
Yes.
Right.
They didn't even buy a ticket. They're not even looking. Right.
Yep. So I'm curious, when you came to the organization, what were some of the best practices that you brought with you?
Establishing or taking the existing diversity statement that that we know, like most all human service agencies, either if they didn't have one, they did after the summer of 2020. And if they had one, they kind of either reworked it to add, words like belonging and justice and anti-racism, all those things.
Yep.
One of the best practices that I used was take a look at what you have, because I don't want to come at this work ever assuming that folks know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all live in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So regardless of what you may watch on the media, what you may read, we live here. This is the world we live in. And so one best practice is to literally take a look at and review what's existing.
Yeah.
Find out exactly, again, asking questions. Where did this come from? What were the thoughts and intentions behind this? What was the purpose of this? And being able to, I don't know if it's polish, edit. Sometimes you leave some things as is and you just work on it. But those were the eyes that I had when I came in, which was, don't step into this ring like you're the prize fighter already.
Well, and don't burn it all down, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, like let's build on what's already working, right, and see where there are some gaps and add there. But gosh, that ability to sort of stay, start, stop. Right. What do we stay? What do we need to stop doing? What should we add into this mix?
Yep.
Yeah. What's been your biggest surprise?
The welcoming, like you find out that folks really genuinely want to get to know the person who's been named or titled the senior director of DEI, like really want to get to know me, my things I like to do for fun, the activities, picking my brain about things like, over the summer when President Biden declared Juneteenth a federal holiday, like maybe a week before Juneteenth. And I'd been with the company for maybe 3 weeks. And I immediately got a call from our vice president of HR, because, folks were asserting themselves and they're like, hey, it's a holiday, we want to take off. We hadn't, officially put that on the paid time off.
Right.
And just the fact that I'd been with the company for like 12 or 15 days, knowing that she felt comfortable enough to reach out to me, create a strategy, put out a memo, make sure that, you know, it went out to the affiliates to make sure they felt supported, with staff who really wanted to take this holiday like pretty serious to have
Right.
the day off, but just the collaboration. And I knew her for 12 or 15 days.
Right.
That's the thing that is was pleasantly surprising, is that it wasn't, hey, let's put the new person on ice until we all figure out what's going on. It
Right.
was, let's integrate her, let's, you know, use her experience as much as possible. And not only did it was a good thing, but it also made me feel pretty good, you know.
Yeah, yeah, right. Like here, okay, I have. They didn't. Again, there's just been so much demonstrative action there, right? You weren't just brought in so that your picture could be on the website and your
Right.
tenure could be on the website. You were brought in to actually do real work, right, and to be a
Yes.
part of the strategy. So there have been so many people that have been brought into organizations for exactly those reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there are a lot of people being set up to fail. What do you think that we can do collectively as people that have done this work for a long time? How can we help those folks that, they're not in our organizations, but I think there's this responsibility, right? For those of us that have done this for years and years and years, how can we help those folks that, you can see it and it's like watching a slow motion train wreck.
Yeah. Yep.
Any thoughts or ideas to the DEI community as a whole? Because I think this is one I'm going to start asking everybody about, because the failure of a certain percentage of people is, it's just so damaging overall.
Oh yeah.
This is hard work.
It
Fun.
is hard.
It's
It's
fun.
hard.
It is. It can fill you up and it can deplete you and it can, all those things. And if you're being brought in so that you can be a picture on the website and so that, somebody can check a box, boy, that can leave a mark.
Yeah. That's a great question. I was listening to you, and my initial thought is, be prepared to have your DEI professionals be the ones, again, who are asking questions and willing to be curious, and try to delay the defensiveness, the need to be correct. I think that, just when people challenge the status quo, that can be uncomfortable. I think that people need to feel supported when they do that. It doesn't always have to be from the top down either. There could be folks that, when you mentioned about, steering committees and people developing the committees, sometimes when people do those things, in my opinion, it's not really embracing, again, who the individuals are that make up the thing. It's just the checklist to have. Oh, that's one thing. The best practices in DEI is to get a steering committee. The next practice is to take a look at an inclusion council. The next practice is looking at employee
work the checklist.
Yeah. And you find out that not only does that drain, that literally just sucks the life out of people. The checklist, just because it's just that lip service. It's the window dressing. And folks that genuinely come at this work, it really is tiring to not be your authentic, genuine self. Like it would really be tiring. So I don't know if I'm answering your question correctly, but I definitely would be mindful that keeping an eye on the folks that are asked to do this work, and having some type of empathy and understanding of just how vulnerable you have to be.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to add is, just embrace the unknown. Like, it literally is okay. It's okay not to have all the answers.
Yeah.
Because this work's tough. It's just tough work.
Yeah. And I think there's an agility that you need as well, because We were just talking as a leadership team with Moxie about, yeah, we've got, you always have a strategic plan, and just know that there's so much that's unknown, that's going to pivot, 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 pivot. So I think embracing that not knowing,
Yep.
and then, right, just continuing to do the next right thing,
Yeah.
is really core and key. This has been a phenomenal conversation.
Yes.
I
It's
would
great.
love for you to leave us with one last truth bomb.
Can it be a hybrid?
Yes. Yes.
So, one important thing, and I keep saying I want to get t-shirts that say this, or buttons or something, that just to keep reminding people that advancing DEI initiatives, it happens over time. It absolutely is a journey. It's a path that, so many of us um, are willing to take, but I don't think folks really understand how banged up you can get. Okay. So I want to leave you with my one of my favorite people in the whole world is Brene Brown, and she talks about embracing the suck. It's
Yes.
just it is it's gonna suck some days. It wasn't meant to be glamorous work, or everybody would be doing it. So I just think that embracing the suck, to having those courageous conversations, making sure that there's some psychological safety, and that people understand that true inclusivity is embracing the suck. That's what it is.
Yes.
That's what it
Yes.
is.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, we give you t-shirts.
Yes.
Rubina, thank you so much. You were so generous with your time, with your ideas. Keep doing this work, and I can't wait to talk to you a year from now. Like,
Yeah.
after you've been in the role for a while, and say, "Wow, look at the things that we got done, and we embraced the suck along the way."
Yes. Yes. Mo, thank you so much for your generous invitation. This was really great.
It's so much fun. I love these conversations. All right, y'all. Next week, we continue our DEI Thought Leader panel series, and we're focusing on tech. So next Tuesday, noon Eastern, we will be talking with a panel of tech DEI leaders. And we've got a wide mix from startup to companies that have transformed into tech-enabled companies. So it's going to be a great conversation. In the meantime, everybody, get out there, do the next right thing, and do your part to create a world where everybody can thrive and feels like they belong. Bye, all.
Great.